Part 17. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 161. Sumew and Jinpo were face to face. The moment Jinpo launched her attack, Sumew also moved. He had already held a sharp saber in his hand, which he could use to deal with the forbidden woman who was so close at hand. But when he stabbed the forbidden woman's head with a knife, a piece of hair shot out quickly, directly protecting the forbidden woman like a shield. Seeing the hair that blocked his attack and immediately tangled towards him, Sumew had no choice but to retreat temporarily. As if she was irritated, the forbidden woman opened her mouth and let out a scream. The silent sound waves directly rippled in the water. At the same time, Wu San's Hung Mi Yiping and the others also felt it, and the hair that attacked them became more fierce. What happened? Why did this damn thing suddenly explode? Wu San's Hung was hit by a bunch of hair and slid out a few meters in the water. His heavy breathing caused a lot of bubbles to come out of his breathing mask. Damn it, Sumew, did you excite her? The attack power of this thing is a bit scary now. While Fatty Wang was avoiding the hair that wanted to tangle his hands and feet, he couldn't help but complain about Sumew directly. Sumew said speechlessly, I was in self-defense, okay. Didn't this thing look at you lovingly just now? If it doesn't work, Sumew, just suffer a little loss, sacrifice a little color, and save us. Get out of here, go to love. I absolutely agree with both hands. Sumew got close and chopped at the forbidden woman, while avoiding the tangled hair, and was distracted by exchanging words with Fatty Wang. It can be said that he was very busy with multitasking. You two, how long has it been since this happened, and you are still joking? Huo Ling was angry and exploded directly into the communicator. Everyone just felt like a woman was roaring, and Sumew and Fatty Wang, who were quarreling with each other, also instantly lost their temper. The forbidden woman's hair is very powerful, and there is a lot of it. Even if everyone uses their own methods to attack Nana and be able to repel those hairs, given the large amount of hair, they are still treating the symptoms rather than the root cause. Soon, Wu San's Hung got his limbs tangled in the forbidden woman's hair by mistake. Huo Ling wanted to step forward to save him, but unexpectedly she was trapped in it. Then even Fatty Wang was tied up by those hairs, and only Mi Yiping was still struggling to hold on. After being attacked by Sumew unsuccessfully, Jinpo hid directly in the pile of hair and disappeared. Sumew didn't panic, and directly used the swimming skill attribute he picked up before. As soon as the advanced attributes are used, the speed advantage of Sumew's swimming skill begins to take effect. I saw him swimming quickly in the water, like a flexible fish, constantly dodging the hair that was coming towards him. Wu San's Hung and others had more than half of their bodies tangled in hair, and they were so anxious that they shouted into the communicator. Hurry, hurry up, we'll be trapped to death if we don't hurry up. Sumew moved quickly, but he walked through the hair as if he was not in a hurry. He was searching, and soon he found what he was looking for in a pile of hair. That is, to hide himself. Forbidden wife. Found it? Sumew's mouth showed a happy smile under the mask, and then he slowly took out the air pressure gun and aimed it directly at the forbidden woman in the pile of hair. Whoosh! As soon as the water pattern appeared in the water, it was like a straight line, spreading from Sumew's position to Jinpo's body in an instant. Shoot, hit. But in the blink of an eye, Sumew's air pressure gun shot Jinpo. A terrifying scream that could be heard through the mask echoed in the water, and the hair that was entangled with other people's hair was all separated in an instant with pain. Everyone regained their freedom and immediately used the knives in their hands to cut off the hair that could not be retracted in time. After making sure that the hair was retracting quickly and no new hair attacked them, they felt a little more at ease. Her hair was falling away quickly. It was obvious that the forbidden woman had been injured by Sumew's blow. She did not dare to confront Sumew again for the time being and ran away directly. Ding! A falling attribute light group was detected nearby. Will the host pick it up? Underscore, comma. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 162. Ding. A falling attribute light group was detected nearby. Will the host pick it up? Listening to the system's beep, Sumu saw the attribute light group that dropped when the forbidden woman escaped, so she directly chose to pick it up. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the recovery attribute light group of the forbidden woman, the attribute value is x46. Ding. The host's current resilience attribute level is primary, and there is still time left for the next upgrade. The beep prompted the numerical value required for upgrading. Sumu didn't pay much attention to it because the experience points required for upgrading were not very much. Sumu is now focusing on the resilience attribute, and is a little confused. Why the resilience attribute? Sumu thought about it and understood. This attribute should be related to the large amount of hair on the forbidden woman. Those hairs are endless, and even if they are cut off directly, they can quickly grow again. Just like a gecko's tail regeneration, it can be said to be endless and extremely resilient. It's a good attribute, Sumu sighed in his heart, but Wooer couldn't help being ecstatic. His defense has now reached the Silver Corpse level, and ordinary people's attacks against him can't cause any damage at all. Even if it is more powerful than ordinary people, several times, the same is true. After all, he is not a wooden target but a living person. Even if those who are several times more powerful than ordinary people hit him, he is confident that he can directly crush those people. His defense alone is he was already so powerful, and now that he had gained the resilience attribute, Sumu felt that he was going to go against the grain. Just imagine that he was fighting with others, not to mention whether the other party could break his defense first. Even if his defense is broken, as long as he has this restorative attribute skill, if someone knocks out a little bit of his blood, he can slowly regain it. Just ask if he is angry. But the other party can only be slowly worn down by him. Slowly consume it, until he finally consumes it alive. This is a moving humanoid tank. It's so awesome. Thinking of this, Sumu became looking forward to the next upgrade. If this skill is upgraded to a high level, will it be like carrying a blood bank on its back? Infinite blood regeneration. This is simply a bug level ability. Sumu felt delighted, and became abnormal about the formation of the connection. Mood. Are you all okay? Sumu asked on the communicator. Well, not bad. Fine. Can't die. Different answers came from the communicator one by one. They all said that they were fine. Only one voice seemed out of place with them. I was almost played to death just now. Fatty Wong's plaintive voice sounded, and his distressed tone made people imagine the depressed look on Fatty Wong's face. Do you know that that bitch just now didn't think it was enough for me to have my hair tangled up in it? He actually pulled my feet and played with me up and down. I almost died from the toy. Fatty Wong complained aggrievedly. He originally thought he would get a word or two of comfort, but he was met with a burst of uncontrollable laughter. Although the laughter was fleeting, Fatty Wong knew that it really existed. I heard, Fatty Wong screamed angrily, suddenly feeling even more aggrieved. Sumu also wanted to laugh, but he held back. Okay, we have to find the entrance to the tomb as soon as possible. If the forbidden woman turns back later, we may not be so lucky. Sumu said calmly, and successfully brought everyone back to their senses. Sumu is right, we need to speed up a bit. Wu Sanzhong also reminded, if we waste any more time, the oxygen we are carrying will not be able to sustain the time we go out. Everyone calmed down immediately after hearing this, and the nervous feeling returned to everyone for a moment. But how do we find the entrance to the tomb? It's pitch black in here, visibility is too low. Because in deep water, even the light from the outside can no longer reach this depth, so the only thing for lighting is the underwater search device that they carry with them. But that little light, in such a deep place, can only reach a limited distance. How can they find the entrance quickly? You follow me. At this moment, Sumyu spoke. Before everyone had time to think, they saw that Sumyu had already turned over and swam out in one direction. Keep up. Underscore, comma. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 163. Keep up. Seeing that everyone was stunned and motionless, Min Yuping gave a rare reminder, and then swam in the direction of Sumyu. Everyone swam for who knows how long, and they couldn't tell the direction in the dark. They only felt that they had turned a few corners. Dived once and surfaced twice, and finally when I surfaced for the last time, I suddenly felt my head popping up out of the water. Out. Ha ha ha, we finally found the entrance to the tomb chamber. After a burst of cheers, everyone began to climb onto the land. This is a magical place. It is obviously hidden deep in the sea, but there is no sea water pouring in. It probably took a lot of thought to design and build this undersea tomb. When they got ashore, they were surrounded by a relatively wide platform. Everyone took off their heavy diving and chemical protective suits and only wore a set of tight-fitting sharkskin swimsuits. Carrying the small bags they brought, everyone began to look for the way forward. With a flashlight sweep, everyone saw a deep tomb passage with no way ahead on a stone wall. Follow me. Sumyu waved, and everyone followed Sumyu and walked in the direction of the tomb passage. They walked carefully in the tomb passage, as everyone was afraid of stepping on some terrible hidden weapon. There were twists and turns. When Jojo arrived at the door of the tomb, everyone discovered that everything was safe. Everyone walked into the tomb together and took a clear look at the situation inside the tomb. They saw that the tomb was still a little dim under the light. Inside, there are some medium-sized porcelain jars. On the stone wall next to it, there are countless potholes. If you look carefully, you can vaguely see the cold light reflected from those potholes. Obviously those potholes are not ordinary decorations. Not only the hidden arrows hidden between the stone walls, but also the mysteries hidden on the ground, there are also other crises that no one can see at the first time. There were so many crises within a small space, which made everyone couldn't help but take a deep breath. So many hidden weapons. Ling couldn't help but smacked her tongue. Others nodded in agreement, but Sumyu was silent for a while. His skills in mechanism skills have reached the top level, so all the mechanisms in front of him cannot escape him. He looked around carefully. After reading it, he couldn't help but sigh at the exquisiteness of Wang Zhanghai's design. He had designed this undersea tomb to such a level that it was considered a master level. Ding! The secret of Wang Zhanghai has been unlocked. Please continue to work hard to unlock more content. A notification sound immediately made Sumyu feel unstable. Now he could finally continue to understand the rest of the secret of Wang Zhanghai. Judging from the system unlocking prompts, the undersea tomb was built with great effort by Wang Zhanghai. He was once captured by the Eastern Xia people to design and build the Yunding Heavenly Palace, and thus got a glimpse of the unknown secrets. For that secret, Wang Zhanghai built the tomb on the bottom of the sea, and also planned to use this place as his own testing ground, but he failed in the end. The unlocked content was not very detailed, but it was enough for Sumyu to guess something. The secrets that Wang Zhanghai had glimpsed were mentioned many times in the mission. Apart from the secret of immortality that the Dongxia people have guarded for generations, no other speculations can be made. The underwater tomb served as Wang Zhanghai's testing ground. Although it failed in the end, it would definitely leave a lot of things behind, right? Thinking of this, Sumu felt a burst of excitement and expectation in her heart. She wondered what Wang Zhanghai would leave behind here. He can't wait any longer. Look, there are footprints on the ground. Everyone was observing and sizing up everything around them, carefully trying not to touch the hidden weapons and move forward safely. However, at this moment, Fatty Wang suddenly pointed at his feet and said. Everyone looked over, and they saw it. There were actually several footprints on the dusty ground. The footprints were not far in front of them, so they were not left by them at all. Everyone felt a chill down their spines. Has someone come in already? Or is it? Said. A terrible and bold guess emerged from everyone's mind, but was immediately rejected by everyone. They did not dare to continue to think about it for fear that one of their careless guesses would come true. Fatty Wang took the flashlight, moved in the direction of the footprints and found that the footprints were a bit messy. I didn't know where the footprints extended to. Over there. Underscore, comma. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 164. Over there. At this moment, Sumu suddenly said. Seeing everyone looking towards him, he pointed to a location in the corner. Everyone looked in the direction pointed by his hand and saw a row of people not far away. Footprints covered with paraffin. Everyone stepped forward cautiously, and could not help but frown a little. Why does this footprint look so small? Fat Wang couldn't help but said suspiciously. The footprints in front of him were very petite, like the footprints that would only be left by a child of a few years old, but how could a child appear in this place? In short, everyone should be careful, Wu Sanzheng reminded everyone. Good. Everyone responded one after another and began to walk forward in the direction of the small footprints again. They walked very carefully, for fear of accidentally triggering those mechanisms. They did not want to face those thousands of arrows on the stone wall. Seen, let alone being shot directly into a sieve by those arrows. Everyone kept walking, and soon saw that the footprints came to the end, and in front of the footprints was a not very big porcelain jar. The porcelain jar was only less than half a person's height. Thick dust has accumulated on the outside of the porcelain jar. But the lid and edge of the porcelain jar are much cleaner than other places. Everyone can't help but feel a little confused. Tight, his face became a little ugly. The thought that there were other existences here besides them, invariably rose in everyone's heart. And that porcelain vat, at this moment, was like a fearful monster, making some people didn't dare to get close. How about we go open the lid and take a look? Fat Wang asked hesitantly and tentatively. He glanced at everyone and saw expressions of agreement, so everyone began to move and slowly approached the porcelain jar. Unknown things are often more fascinating. Feeling fear, this is the important task at the moment. Because I don't know what is in the porcelain jar, even my movements begin to become hesitant. Let me do it. At this moment, Mi Na Yuping stood up and walked in front of everyone. He thought that with his ability, he could quickly escape when danger occurred, and even if there were any evil spirits, with his bloodline they won't be afraid of those things. With Mi Na Yuping, everyone fell behind a little, and Sumu didn't follow him, because he knew that one person was enough with Mi Na Yuping. Mi Na Yu approached the porcelain jar cautiously and stretched out his hand. Slowly the lid was stretched out, and the people behind him watched without blinking. Wu Sanzheng, Fatty Wang, and the others even swallowed several mouthfuls of saliva out of nervousness. Just when Mi Na Yuping's fingers were about to touch the porcelain, the change happened suddenly. Everyone saw that the porcelain jar suddenly began to shake violently when the oil bottle was close to it. The lid collided with the porcelain jar and even made a crisp sound. What happened? Why are you moving? Huo Ling was a little surprised and her eyes widened. Others didn't know what was being posted and couldn't give her any answers. The porcelain jar was shaking violently, as if it would shatter itself into pieces the next moment. However, the porcelain jar was very strong, with no cracks at all. Everyone saw that the porcelain jar was shaking more and more happily. Just when everyone was confused and alert, the porcelain jar suddenly fell to the ground and made a crisp sound of plop. Huh? Not broken. Wu Sanzhong couldn't help but let out a sigh. Judging from the sound just now, the porcelain jar had to have a few big cracks. However, the porcelain jar seemed to be wrapped by a mysterious force, without any damage. Not only that, after the porcelain jar fell to the ground, it actually started rolling on the ground at an extremely fast speed. Buzzing. The porcelain vat rotated rapidly on the ground, making a dull sound. The speed was so fast that it rolled several meters away in the blink of an eye. "Come on, it's running away," Huo Ling couldn't help but exclaimed, almost treating the porcelain jar as a living thing. "Catch up." Before Wu Sanzhong finished speaking, he saw that the porcelain jar that had been running away suddenly stopped. Then, under the surprised eyes of everyone, he crashed directly towards everyone with an even faster trend. "Get out of the way," Men Yuping let out a low shout. Huo Ling and Fatty Wang, who were on the path of the porcelain cylinder, did not have time to think before they directly followed Men Yuping's order and jumped out to the side. The porcelain cylinder did not hit anyone once, and prepared to hit Wusan province, but fortunately Wusan province was already prepared, so he evaded it very quickly. "When it hits again, we will directly control it." A cold light flashed in Sumyu's eyes, and he told his plan. Everyone nodded after hearing this. However, the porcelain jar seemed to be aware of everyone's intentions. After hitting Wu Sanzhong without success, he actually spun around in a circle and rolled out directly towards the tomb passage at super fast speed. The tomb passage extended all the way to the innermost part. The porcelain jar moved extremely fast, and it was about to enter the dark tomb passage. "Chase!" Fat Wang exclaimed, and took the lead to chase after the porcelain vat. Wu Sanzhong and Huo Ling followed closely behind. Their posture was as if they would not give up until they caught the porcelain vat. "Stop! Stop! Underscore, comma. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is Fierce and Cute. Chapter 165. Stop. Just when the three of them were about to rush into the spacious tomb passage, Sumyu and Mi Yuping, who were following behind them, shouted in unison. Fatty Wang, Wu Sanzhong, and Huo Ling, in Sumyu and Mi Yuping hurriedly stopped their steps as they screamed. Precisely because they stopped in time, they happened to stop at the entrance of the tomb passage. "What's wrong?" the three of them were puzzled and turned around to ask. Sumyu and Mi Yuping also rushed over. Seeing everyone's confused expressions, they picked up Fatty Wang's backpack without saying a word and threw it into the tomb passage. My bag." Fatty Wang stretched out his hand to grab his bag, but before he reached halfway, he was so frightened by what happened next that he retracted it. The moment Fatty Wang's bag landed, there was a slight stuck sound. Then I heard swish, 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 countless sounds of breaking through the air suddenly came. In an instant, under the illumination of everyone's lights, a terrifying rain of arrows fell directly in the tomb passage. Countless sharp arrows were shot directly from the stone wall next to it. "Fuck, trough." Fat Wang was almost stunned by the scene in front of him, and the curse words bursting out of his mouth seemed to be incoherent. Not only Fatty Wang, but also other people were also shocked. The terrifying arrow rain directly made everyone feel uncomfortable. Chills. If Sumyu and Mi Yuping hadn't stopped them just now, and they hadn't stopped and ran in, the consequences would have been disastrous. By then, they would have been shot from the stone wall. Countless sharp arrows were directly inserted into hedgehogs. Just thinking about it makes people feel chilly and frightened. The arrow rain in the tomb passage has stopped, but everyone does not think that the arrows inside have been shot. They are afraid that they will wait for another once you enter, you will still be greeted by the overwhelming rain of arrows. What should we do now? Huo Ling looked at the arrows that fell on the ground and asked. This is the only entrance to the tomb. If they can't pass through this tomb passage, they won't be able to enter the tomb at all. If we want to get through, we have to destroy the mechanism of these arrow rains first, but no one knows where the mechanism is, Wu Sanzheng analyzed calmly. Huo Ling thought for a while, then introduced herself. Let me go in and find that mechanism. My skills are pretty good, and even if I touch the mechanism, I can flexibly dodge those arrows. But, Wu Sanzheng was a little hesitant. The risk factor of the matter was very high. There's nothing wrong with it, my movements are smarter than those of you grown men. With that said, Huo Ling prepared to enter the tomb passage. You wait first. As soon as Huo Ling took a step forward, she was stopped by Su Mu. What else? Huo Ling turned around to ask, only to see Su Mu walking towards her. I'd better go. Su Mu had no idea of letting a woman charge into battle for them, and directly stopped Huo Ling's actions. Why? Think I can't do it? Huo Ling's face changed slightly, with some indescribable sadness and anger. Is Su Mu the kind of person who thinks women are a burden? But before she could think about it, Su Mu continued, don't think too much, I just think it's more suitable for me to go. Huo Ling was still puzzled, and the others did not express their opinions, waiting for Su Mu to explain. Su Mu said calmly, I have a certain understanding of mechanism techniques, and I am faster than you, so I am looking for mechanisms. I will have an advantage over you when the time comes, so it's most appropriate for me to go. As he said that, Su Mu took the lead and walked towards the tomb passage without waiting for anyone to ask any more questions. Huo Ling still looked surprised, but the others were already used to it. Su Mu's abilities were better than those of their group. Among them, Mina Yuping is probably his opponent. But where is the limit? Even Fatty Wang, who is very familiar with him, can't tell. Since Su Mu said it would be better for him to go, then he must have enough confidence to say that. Everyone watched Su Mu walking into the tomb passage in silence, and then saw him looking around. After carefully looking at the surrounding environment, Su Mu finally took a step forward. The first foot fell. Wu Sanzheng, Fatty Wang, and others behind him couldn't help but sweat. However, the overwhelming rain of arrows that everyone had guessed did not appear, and everything was so calm. Huh, everyone couldn't help but exclaimed, expressing their surprise. A meaningful light flashed in Mina Yuping's eyes, but he was relieved after thinking about it. Just now, Su Mu himself said that he knew the art of mechanism. Thinking that the step just now was the safest step based on Su Mu's calculations. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but before their hearts dropped, they saw that Su Mu had already taken the second and third steps. Tap tap tap. The footsteps were light, but they seemed to step heavily on their hearts. The nervousness, as if they were afraid that any sound they made would affect Su Mu, made several people feel like they were stepping on the edge of a tightrope, nervous and afraid. Su Mu's mood was completely opposite to theirs. At this moment, Su Mu's heart was quite calm, and even his forward steps looked like taking a leisurely stroll. He would just stop and go. Every time he paused, he would carefully observe the surrounding environment, and then mentally calculate the location of the next mechanism. As they knew, the only way to stop the hidden arrows on the stone wall was to completely destroy the mechanism, but what they didn't know was that there was more than one mechanism at the moment, right under his feet. There is more than one loose slate between those slates. As long as someone accidentally steps on it, it will directly trigger the hidden arrow mechanism. This is why they could trigger a rain of arrows just by throwing a bag out. The tomb passage is not very long, but the location is very wide. For ordinary people, it may take a long time to carefully walk through the tomb passages. But Su Mu was extremely fast, and it only took him about 10 minutes to complete the entire tomb passage. When approaching the stone wall of the tomb passage, Sumu suddenly discovered an unusual place. Stone candlesticks are installed on the stone walls of the tomb passage, and the shape of each stone platform is the same. Only this one looks slightly different. It's here. Underscore, comma. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 166. It's here Sumu made some calculations in his mind and determined. He stretched out his hand to the stone platform and gently touched the oil bowl on it. With his keen perception, it should have been one with the stone platform. The oil bowl moved slightly when Sumu touched it. Sumu felt happy and turned the stone bowl without hesitation. He only heard a click sound, as if some mechanism had been used. Touched. Sumu's perception was maximized to prevent any imminent danger, but nothing happened next. Feeling relieved, Sumu turned around and wanted to call Wu Sansheng and Mi Yuping and the others over, but they were moving. As he was walking, he suddenly heard a crisp sound under his feet. The mechanism was activated. The next second, overwhelming arrows were shot towards Sumu. Sumu reacted instantly with a look in his eyes. Sumu saw the speed increase to the fastest in an instant, and disappeared from the place in the blink of an eye. Tuck tuck tuck. Sumu didn't pay attention to the sound of arrows hitting the ground one after another. His speed had reached the top level, and even bullets couldn't catch up with him. The few people standing outside looked at the sudden change and were so nervous that their hearts almost jumped out of their throats. Unexpectedly, in the next second, Sumu completely overturned their understanding of Sumu. Is this still human speed? That speed is so fast that it leaves an afterimage in place. Is it really something that humans can possess? Sumu easily dodged the arrows shot at him, but his eyes still stayed on the wall where the stone bowls were placed. He secretly cursed that old guy Wang Zhanghai for actually setting up a secret trick. The mechanism he found just now was supposed to be the key to terminating the activation of the secret arrow. Who knew that the old guy Wang Zhanghai actually changed the mechanism, so he only then would the secret arrow mechanism be directly triggered. But this didn't bother him. He carefully observed the stone wall, and finally fixed his gaze on the original position. Wang Zhanghai changed the mechanism, but in the end, the main mechanism was moved too far away. Because it was unrealistic, so after all calculations, that location was the most suitable. But, Sumu glanced at the stone a few times, and then at another stone platform aside, and finally determined that there was something strange about that stone platform. Now that he had identified his, Sumu no longer hesitated at all, and rushed forward, reaching out and quickly patting the stone platform. Snap! A gear turning sound was louder than before, and the arrows that were still shooting wildly suddenly stopped shooting as if the power was suddenly cut off. Success! Sumu felt happy and tentatively took a few more steps to the side. After discovering that even if he stepped on a loose stone slab, the hidden arrow was not triggered again, the smile on his face became more obvious. Come here, the creature shouted towards Wu Sansheng and Mi Yuping. Several people who were watching Sumu's movements closely also immediately noticed that the mechanism had stopped and rushed over happily. Sumu, you are awesome. I didn't expect that the mechanism would be stopped so quickly. Yes, you can. Fat Wang praised Sumu as always. If he continues like this, he will probably become Sumu's #1 fan. Even Men Yuping, who has always been calm, has to admire Sumu's ability at this moment. Sumu, are you okay? Are there any injuries? Huo Ling was very worried about Sumu's safety. She glanced over Sumu's body and felt relieved after making sure that he was not injured. Yo-ho! Huo da beauty! Are you ready to make a secret promise? When Fatty Wang saw this, he joked directly from the side. Before Sumu could speak, Huo Ling gritted his teeth and said to Fatty Wang, Do you believe it or not? If you are making nonsense, I will block your mouth with a black donkey's hooves." Fatty Wang stopped when he was satisfied and stopped provoking Huoling. He stretched out his hand and made a zipper motion on his mouth to show that he was sensible and stopped talking. Mi Niyuping and Wu Sanzheng were studying at this time. Regarding the mechanism on the stone wall, Men Yuping, who was always silent, rarely expressed his opinions. The two were chatting in full swing. On the other side, Su Mu and Huoling were also talking without a word, and only Fatty Wang was the only one. The man closed his mouth, a little idle. He buried his head and looked at the ground. The ground was covered with a layer of arrows. Fatty Wang was bored, so he squatted down and picked up an arrow from the ground. The arrow flashed with cold light and was very sharp. Fatty Wang poked it with his finger, but he didn't expect that the arrow part could move. Fatty Wang was curious. He wanted to rub it with his hand and poke it, but who knew that the sharp arrow would retract its body directly? Inside. Fatty Wang felt it was fun and novel, so he took the arrow and pierced his body. When the arrow came into contact with his body, it retracted directly and could not cause any harm to the person at all. "What are you doing?" Underscore. Comma. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 167. What are you doing? In the eyes of those who didn't know the truth, Fatty Wang's behavior was no different from self-mutilation. Everyone was shocked. Fatty Wang said with a proud look on his face, "What did you find after reading this?" As he spoke, Fatty Wang showed everyone the arrow that could retract automatically. Then he stepped forward seriously and patted Su Mu on the shoulder, saying, "I didn't expect it to be like this. Oh, you just worked in vain. Got it?" That sultry little expression is simply making people's teeth itch. Su Mu ignored Fatty Wang's intermittent convulsions, but Huoling couldn't stand it and stepped forward, ready to kick Fatty Wang. The kick was definitely not intentional. Fatty Wang also nimbly dodged the kick from Huoling. While retreating, his feet seemed to hit something. Even the slightest movement in this place can make people feel it's so creepy, not to mention that Fatty Wang feels that the size of that thing is not ordinary. I think I hit something." Fat Wang paused for a moment, then looked back. His face suddenly changed and he screamed in panic. He jumped up in an exaggerated way and rushed directly to Su Mu's side. Huoling, who was face to face with him, was confused. "Okay," I looked back at Su Mu and then at Fatty Wang behind Su Mu, with a speechless expression on his face. "When did you become so timid?" Su Mu complained directly. Fatty Wang reached out and pointed towards the place where he was standing just now. Only then did Su Mu and the others' eyes fall on the corner where no one was paying attention. They saw that right where everyone's eyes were gathered, on the ground there was a porcelain vat standing on the same spot, which was exactly the porcelain vat they were chasing before. "Is there something inside? Otherwise, why would it move?" This is what Fatty Wang wanted to say before. However, things developed too fast at that time, which made people a little unprepared. Huoling looked at the porcelain jar and felt a little nervous. After swallowing, she said, "Is there something going on inside? Is it a rice dumpling?" "Zongzi? If there are rice dumplings, they are only small rice dumplings," Wu Sanzheng said, and walked boldly towards the position of the porcelain vat. Mi Niyuping followed Wu Sanzheng. The two walked to the porcelain vat, looked at each other and nodded to each other. The oil bottle directly stretched his hand towards the lid of the porcelain cylinder. The lid was built in, so it didn't fall out when the porcelain cylinder was rolling. At this moment, the oil bottle stretched out his hand and pulled it open. Fatty Wang and Huoling's heart skipped a beat when a rice dumpling suddenly popped out of it. Su Mu, who was standing next to them, looked at their expressions and chuckled twice. Huoling was shocked, so his face was filled with tears again. It burned red for a while. The lid of the porcelain jar was opened, and there was something inside. Wu Sanzhong used a flashlight to shine inside, and found that there was a square hole on the back of the porcelain jar. The little Zongzi that everyone suspected had disappeared, and there was only some white hair and a puddle of liquid, wet and slippery, a bit like oil. Wu Sanzhong dipped a little with his finger and put it under his nose and smelled it. His face changed and he said, "It's corpse oil." Sure enough, there was just a small rice dumpling inside. Fatty Wang was sure now. He twirled a bunch of white hair and murmured, "And it's still a white-haired rice dumpling." The so-called white-haired Zongzi is the more troublesome Zongzi who has just awakened. The most striking feature of Zongzi at this moment is the white hair growing on his body. He is very easy to identify, but also very vicious and difficult to deal with. Where did he go? Everyone, they all shined their flashlights around. However, no trace of the little white-haired rice dumpling was found. Forget it, stop looking for it now. Just be careful later. We have more important things to do, Sumu reminded. After hearing this, everyone stopped worrying about the whereabouts of the little white-haired rice dumpling and began to walk along the tomb passage to the tomb chamber inside. The next section of the road was not as full of people as the previous one. The remaining section of the tomb passage seemed very calm and safe. Soon everyone came to a stone door that was more than 2 people tall. There was not much decoration on the stone door, just some simple relief carvings, and the stone door was closed tightly. Then, Sumu stepped forward and pushed. He originally thought that it would not be pushed open at all, but he found that the stone door did not have any mechanism to lock it. Instead, he pushed it gently, and with a squeak, he pushed it open. Looking at the slowly opening tomb door, Sumu's hand froze in mid-air before he could react. Others also didn't expect that opening the door would be so simple. This is too easy, right? Fatty Wang murmured in disbelief. After experiencing the crazy explosion of secret arrows in the tomb passage just now, can anyone still believe that the important tomb door has no mechanism at all? Sumu couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, and once again cursed in his mind that the old guy Wang Zhanghai didn't act according to common sense. After everyone couldn't help but complain, as the scene in the tomb slowly unfolded in front of everyone began to express all their surprises. There were originally 2 stone candlesticks placed at the entrance of the tomb, with 2 burning torch pillars inserted on the stone platform. However, due to years of oxidation and the passage of time, the 2 torch pillars have now become decayed. It has no effect at all. Fatty Wang took out 2 simple torches from his backpack, lit them and inserted them directly into the stone platform. In a short time, the light of the torches brought a ray of light to the dark tomb chamber. Only then did everyone see clearly everything in the tomb. The tomb is very wide, with various runes carved on the surrounding stone walls. In the center of the tomb are 4 stone pillars that bear the weight of the tomb, and each stone pillar is carved with vivid tomb beasts. Around each stone pillar, there are some scattered artifacts piled up. The most eye-catching thing in the entire tomb is the large golden Nanmu coffin in the center of Su's tomb. The coffin was almost twice as big as other coffins. It looked like a coffin for 2 people to be buried together. Oh my God! Look at this coffin, it's amazing, Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 168. Oh my God! Look at this coffin, it's amazing. Fatty Wang's eyes almost lit up. Often the quality of a coffin directly reflects the status of the tomb owner. Since such a fine golden Nanmu coffin can be used, the identity of the owner of the tomb must be extraordinary. What do unusual tomb owners often bring? That is the countless wealth that makes people covet. Just thinking about this made Fatty Wang want to pry open the coffin immediately to see what treasures were hidden inside. How about we pry it open and see what's inside? Fatty Wang encouraged him. Others had no objections, so Fatty Wang happily began to discuss the matter of opening the coffin. Candles must be lit, and the mechanism for opening the coffin must be found. This kind of good coffin generally, coffins are not nailed with coffin nails like ordinary coffins. Instead, skilled craftsmen design mechanisms that can be locked. Everyone here is attracted by the precious golden Nanmu coffin, but Sumu on the other side is surrounded by 4 coffins. Scanning down, checking any suspicious corner. He knew the plot in the original work. In the original plot, there should be a cat corpse that had been transformed into a rice dumpling. But now he looked around, but I didn't find anything similar, and I couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. It was impossible to remember wrongly, so it must be the cat Zongzi hidden there. At this moment, Fatty Wang had already lit the candles, and cooperated with Wu San's Hung He and Huo Ling began to use tools to pry open the lid of the golden Nanmu coffin. Sumu originally wanted them to wait, but now it was too late. Seeing that the lid of the coffin had been opened, there was nothing that could be done, and he was also curious about what was inside the coffin. When the coffin was opened, everyone gathered around to see what was inside. However, what appeared inside surprised everyone. In the golden Nanmu coffin inside, there was a very strange-looking corpse. The corpse looked like there were stitching marks all over the body, and there was no moisture on the body, and it looked very shriveled and ugly. The inside of the coffin was very dry, there is not even a trace of moisture. It is very abnormal at first glance. According to normal conditions, even if the corpse is not highly decomposed, at least the water in the body will flow out, and a pool of corpse water will be formed around the corpse to soak the corpse inside. However, everyone found that there was no corpse water in the golden Nanmu coffin, which was very strange. Sumu felt something was wrong, and at that moment, a strange sound suddenly came from his ears. Meow. Meow. The faint sound was far different from the normal sound. The sound sounded extremely piercing, like sharp nails slowly scratching across the glass window. It made people feel chills in their hearts and made their scalp numb. Not good. Sumu and Mina Yuping shouted loudly at the same time, and their expressions suddenly changed. There has been folklore since ancient times, after death, cats cannot be approached, especially black cats. It is said that cats are messengers of the underworld, carrying a large number of the evil spirit. If it comes into contact with the corpse, it will definitely disturb the deceased's rest and unpredictable changes will occur, commonly known as corpse transformation. What are you doing? Hurry and close the coffin lid. Men Yuping reminded everyone with a loud shout, and he put his hands on the coffin lid and pressed it with all his strength. Even if he reminded people in time, it was already too late. Everyone I saw a black shadow flash past quickly, leaving a black after-image in front of everyone's eyes. Then before everyone could react, they jumped directly into the coffin. Oops. Mina Yu. Ping's face changed drastically and he yelled something bad. Then he rushed forward quickly with a single lunge. Before anyone had time to react, he pushed away Wu San's Hung and Fatty Wang who were blocking the front. Then he bent down and raised his hand, lifting the coffin lid next to him. What happened? Wu San's Hung and Fatty Wang, who were pushed aside, were still confused when they heard a loud bang in front of them, and the oil bottle directly buckled the coffin lid on the coffin. A textual narrative may require several paragraphs of description, but what actually happens is just a matter of breaths. In just the blink of an eye, Mina Yuping completed the series of actions, so fast that no one had a chance to react. Come and help. After closing the coffin lid, Menjuping immediately turned around and shouted. At the same time, there was a spooky and violent noise in the coffin that had just been closed. Bang bang, bang bang bang. Loud noises came from inside the coffin, as if something was beating wildly inside. The being inside was so powerful that Mina Yuping almost pressed down on him. The lid of the coffin that he closed was almost lifted up by the contents inside. Sumyu's reaction was equally fast. When Mi Nayuping shouted loudly, he quickly stepped forward and put his hands directly on the coffin lid. His strength has reached the top level, and Mi Nayu bottle is no longer on the same level as him. Therefore, when the stuffy oil bottle was about to be unable to suppress the violently beating coffin lid, Sumyu slapped it and flattened the violently beating coffin lid. Bang, bang, bang. There was a fierce noise from the coffin. The sound was so loud that everyone outside could hear it clearly. What's going on? Huo Ling exclaimed. Could this be the mutated corpse inside? Huo Ling looked at the others in panic. After hearing this, Mi Nayuping immediately gave the answer. The corpse has changed. Comma. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 169. The corpse has changed. Come on, don't stand still, come and help, Sumyu shouted to everyone. At this moment, Sumyu also discovered that the things inside the coffin seemed to be very complicated. Even with his top strength attribute, there was no way to completely suppress him. He could only shout loudly for others to come over. Help suppress it? Wu Sanzhong and the others just saw constant noises coming from the coffin, but they didn't know how hard Sumyu and Mi Nayuping had to suppress it. Only when everyone pressed up did they realize that there were sounds coming from inside the coffin. How powerful is it? It's like it's going to blow them all away. No, I can't control it anymore. Wu Sanzhong was almost lying on the coffin, and his body was shaking up and down with the violent vibration of the coffin lid. You guys think of a solution quickly, the same is true for Fatty Wang. 4 or 5 of them together couldn't even suppress a rice dumpling. You can imagine how powerful the things inside are. He must not be allowed to come out, otherwise, the consequences will be unknown. What will it look like? This is the thought that flashed through everyone's mind. Seeing that they could no longer suppress it, Su and Mi Nayuping looked at each other, and in perfect agreement, they stretched out their fingers to their lips, bit them, and dripped the blood directly. Lifting the lid of the coffin. At that moment, there seemed to be an invisible pressure spreading in the air. An unknown coercion pressed directly on the coffin, and then pressed on the coffin through the lid of the coffin. On the Zongzi inside. The coffin that was shaking violently for a moment completely calmed down. It seemed that the Zongzi inside had been completely suppressed by the blood power of the two people. Call. Finally suppressed. Fat Wang was breathing heavily, and there were beads of sweat on his forehead. It seemed that the situation just now consumed him a lot of energy. What was that thing that ran in just now, after they had a chance to breathe? Huo Ling asked. They had only seen a black figure jumping into the coffin before. Before they had time to see clearly what it was, they heard Men Yuping let out a loud drink, and then directly closed the coffin lid. That was a cat, to be precise, it should be a corpse turned cat Zongzi. Sumyu took a breath and explained. He had been alert to the existence of Mao Zongzi, but he didn't expect that the other party's appearance was so unexpected. And it was so fast that no one could react. That one when the cat Zongzi appeared, Sumyu had already seen it clearly. The cat that looked very shriveled was because the hair on Zongzi's body was dry and without any luster. Moreover, the hair was not the same color as that of a normal cat, but a kind of red like dried blood. The pair of cat eyes on the face look extremely huge because the body has dried up. And they are very prominent. The canine teeth are longer than when they were alive and look extremely sharp. Its canine teeth are longer than when they were alive. The body is very small and short, no more than the size and length of a baby's arms, and the skin and flesh on the abdomen are tightly stuck together. It seems that the internal organs have slowly rotted and shriveled over time as it died. The whole cat, the corpse, looked like a skeleton wrapped in a layer of skin. It looked very scary. Why are there cats here? And it's actually a corpse turned Katzongzi. This makes people couldn't help but feel horrified. Now the corpse in the coffin has begun to transform due to the Katzongzi, and has begun to transform in the direction of the Zongzi. This is something that no one expected. This is the first time I have seen the so-called cat corpse. Wu Sanzheng was a little emotional. Everyone nodded, showing that they were as surprised as he was. I had only heard the rumors about cats raising corpses from the mouths of old people before, but I didn't expect them to be true and so dangerous. It was really unexpected. Just when everyone was chatting about folklore, the coffin, which they thought was safe, suddenly heard a louder noise than before. Bang bang bang, bang bang bang. The movement was countless times more violent than before, and even if everyone pressed on it, it would still be of no avail. There is no other way. This was the thought that came to Sumu and Mi Yuping's minds when they understood the real situation. The next second, Sumu shouted, "Get out of the way." Then the moment everyone received the order, everyone stepped back without hesitation. Bang! The next second, the golden Nanmu coffin shook violently and suddenly made a loud noise, and then the entire coffin exploded directly from the middle. The 4 coffin boards were blown away far away, and then there were several dull noises, and all the 4 coffin boards fell heavily to the ground. What is that? Underscore, comma. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 170. What is that? Wu Sanzheng exclaimed. When everyone looked towards the original location of the coffin, they were shocked to find that a tall figure appeared where the coffin was originally placed. It was a very strange figure with a full body. The body was covered with countless suture marks from top to bottom. Countless body parts were sewn on the body, and each body part seemed to be torn from a different person's body. Then they were sewn together uniformly. It was very terrifying. It was exactly the stitched corpse they had seen before that was suppressed in the coffin, but at this moment it had undergone a corpse transformation due to the appearance of the Katzongzi, and transformed into a supergiant Zongzi. The golden thread, the explosion of the Nanmu coffin, directly released the terrifying stitched giant rice dumpling. What appeared in front of everyone was the stitched giant rice dumpling that had turned into a corpse. Just standing there, he was already facing it was a huge psychological challenge for everyone. Not only every body part on the supergiant Zongzi came from a different person, but even countless hands and feet were sewn on the body, which also made him look extremely bloated and huge. Only seeing that he was nearly 2 meters tall, with countless hands and feet dragging behind him, and his eyes were scarlet, he was standing in an extremely weird posture. It was also at this time that everyone discovered that the oversized sewn-up rice dumpling was far more terrifying than they had imagined. Damn it! What kind of monster is this? Fatty Wang exclaimed, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets because of his stare. Others also had frightened expressions as if they were seeing the end of the world, mainly because the stitched corpse was too terrifying. The giant rice dumpling's body, which was originally very shriveled and yellow, unexpectedly expanded rapidly in front of everyone at an unhurried speed. When he was lying in the coffin before, because his body was already shriveled, he didn't even notice that he had anyhow burly. However, after this sudden corpse transformation, his withered body seemed to be suddenly inflated, becoming plump and burly, visible to the naked eye. Before, because of the obstruction of some other things, everyone did not see the super large stitches clearly. What is the real situation of the rice dumplings? Only then did I realize that behind the sewn up super large rice dumplings, the hands and feet that were sewn on were also extremely huge. There were long, short, thick, and thin, and those hands and feet were scratching randomly in mid-air. Like a group of demons dancing wildly, people really can't adapt to seeing it. Damn, this thing is really disgusting. Even at a critical moment, Fatty Wang couldn't help but complain. This sentence was highly praised by everyone. Stop talking nonsense and take your things out quickly or we will all die here. Sumu didn't look back, and kept looking at the stitched oversized rice dumplings. He found that the oversized zongzi that was sewn together seemed to be in a state of adapting when it was just pretending to be a corpse. Maybe later, after he gets used to it, he will have to come over and tear them apart. It's really hand-tiered. Do you think all the tricks are just for show? After Sumu reminded them, everyone immediately recovered from the shock. He immediately took out from his backpack a weapon specially designed to deal with zongzi, a must-have artifact for fighting upside down, the black donkey's hooves. Fatty Wang moved very quickly, took out a black donkey's hoof and threw it towards the oversized sewn rice dumpling. The palm-sized black donkey's hoof slid through an arc-shaped parabola in mid-air, and then landed accurately on the stitched extra-large rice dumpling. Bingo! Fat Wang clenched his fists and cheered. Then, less than a second after he was happy, he was instantly discouraged. He saw the black donkey's hooves that were supposed to cause damage to the zongzi fell on the stitched super-large zongzi. Only wisps of black smoke came out. It did not cause any substantial harm to him at all. No. Useless. Fat Wang was dumbfounded. He didn't expect that the black donkey's hooves, which were invincible against zongzi, would sometimes lose their effectiveness. Although the black donkey's hooves were useless, they seemed to turn on the switch to sew the big zongzi. Or maybe it directly stimulated only the big rice dumpling was sewn together. He opened his mouth to reveal a mouthful of fangs, and let out a roar that seemed human and inhuman. Even people who were some distance away from him seemed to be able to feel the invisible pressure. Everyone beware, Sumu reminded. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the stitching monster move, and then strode directly towards the crowd. Maybe it was because there were many hands and feet behind him, but the giant stitched rice dumpling did not move. Too flexible. But with that 2-meter-high body, the ground seemed to vibrate faintly with every step it took. The scene was very terrifying. Damn it, isn't it? Why me? Fatty Wang suddenly wailed. I saw that the direction the giant sewn rice dumpling was heading was exactly where Fatty Wang was, and he saw the giant sewn rice dumpling walking toward him menacingly. Fatty Wang's hair stood on end, and he kept retreating. The suture monster didn't move very quickly at first. However, the longer he walked, the more flexible his figure became. In the end, he actually accelerated from walking to running speed. Fatty Wang wanted to avoid the suture monster, but found that the suture monster seemed to have locked onto him. No matter which direction he ran away from, his eyes were fixed on him. Is it because I lost a black donkey's hoof just now? Am I so vindictive? You said you've been dead for thousands of years, why should you be so petty? Fatty, you should stay away. Sumu couldn't help but sweat for Fatty Wang when he saw him running around in the stitch monster's path. I fucking thought about it too, don't you see, all the hatred is concentrated on me, how can I hide? Fatty Wang roared angrily as he ran. Bang bang bang, underscore.